We're going to talk about wheat post-emerge broadleaf herbicides. I know we really have to narrow up that focus here. There are a lot of choices in wheat. And Darren and I were just debating a little bit off camera. We were talking about addition versus affinity products. And DuPont makes these affinity products that basically have a couple of different sulfonylureas in there. And addition is the generic version of that. And
okay, here's the difference. One is a generic, one's not. DuPont's got some patented formulation techniques that they use, so they have a little better clean out and rinse out in the spray tank.
Right.
And that's something that, you know, for some farmers, if they're switching between crops, this could be a big deal.
Especially going to sugar beets and things like that. A lot of guys have been concerned.
And you need to know that.
But this is the whole thing. I mean, it's very easy for brothers on the farm to debate, well, I want to use affinity. Well, I want to use addition. And what are you going to do? You have to figure out where the differences are. And that's why we're talking about these wheat products. And I know you're not ready to spray them yet, but we want to get discussing these things because it takes a few months to hash things out between brothers on the farm.
Well, sometimes it does. Fortunately for us, Brand, the addition or affinity or whatever you want to call it is not the main staple of our program. It's the helper. And you think about it, well, broadleaf weed control in wheat, a lot of guys would still say, well, I've got 2,4-D. What else do I need? That's cheap.
A lot of guys will say that, but one thing Darren and I can agree on is that 2,4-D absolutely hurts wheat. Okay, farmers used to use it all over the country in corn too until they got better, safer options. We now have better, safer options in wheat. Quit using 2,4-D in wheat. It's hurting your wheat. And if you don't believe us, I mean, you don't have to believe us. Try it on your own farm. And when you try it, make sure you're watching really, really close. Use a weigh wagon because we're only talking about a bushel or two difference most years. Some years 5 bushels.
Depending on what rate you're using and what timing, because you could hurt it a lot worse than that.
But if it's only a bushel or two difference, is that going to show up on the yield monitor? No. But is that going to show up in your pocketbook? Absolutely. So look at the better, safer options, and the two best ones that we know of on the market today that are very broad spectrum are going to be Wide Match and Huskie.
Well, you know, the key, Brian, comes down to which one of these products, and for most of the wheat farmers we work with, it's, well, should I use Wide Match or should I use Huskie, and can I use one of them across the whole farm? You know, let's look at Wide Match first. That's the one that's got a little bit more market share. It's the widest selling product in wheat. And you look at Wide Match, it's got some holes in it, and that's why we look at the affinity or addition options.
Okay, but let's talk about the strengths of the Wide Match. What it's got in there is Stinger, which is fantastic on thistles, and Starane, which is fantastic on kochia.
That just happens to be the number 1 and number 2 weed problem for wheat farmers.
Right, exactly. So if Stinger is going to fit for you on thistles, if the Starane is going to fit for you on kochia, you know, you got a winner right there.
When we talk about crop rotation, there are a few crops that you have to be really cautious of if you're using Huskie. Now, as far as weed control goes, Huskie's been fantastic. And as far as broad spectrum product, I would say it's the broadest spectrum weed control product we have.
Yeah, I guess I would agree with that. And what it kind of comes down to here, we've got 2 products in the Huskie. Just like there are 2 products in Wide Match, there are 2 in Huskie. One is Bucktrill that you're familiar with. That has no residual, and that has a little more narrow weed spectrum. The other product is going to be somewhat similar to Loudus or Callisto or Impact in corn. It's one of those that's going to turn weeds white.
Now you can mix other products with the Huskie, or you could just increase the rate of Huskie that you use. There are some choices there, but again, there are some drawbacks, especially when you get into some of the specialty crops. I know some guys have had some issues with peas and a few other crops where they've actually narrowed that rotational window up a little bit.
The thing too that I would keep in mind with Huskie is it's got that Bucktrill in there, which doesn't seem to work quite as well when we're talking about cooler weather conditions, and even that bleacher product maybe not quite as good. So just remember, when you're in the northern part of the country and you're spraying wheat and it's cold, if the weather's really cold, I don't care what product you're using, it's going to take longer for the product to work, and it's maybe not going to be quite as effective. So we'd prefer to spray any of these products on days that are a little bit warmer, and especially when the nighttime temperature is above 50 degrees, that would be our preference.
And also, you need to give those weeds a couple of days. So if you have one of those mornings that it's really cold, maybe it's going to take a couple of days until those weeds are really actively growing. Once you're back into active growth, you're going to do a lot better job on weed control.
Well, there are a number of choices in wheat, but once again, probably the top 2 products, and we've talked about them a lot today, are Wide Match and Huskie, so I take a strong look at those for your farm.
Those are great products, Brian, but will they control our weed of the week? We'll tell you coming up next.